Hi guys, and welcome back to World of Tanks, and well, I'll try and keep it as short as possible. Basically, I'm going to be looking at some of the patch notes for update 4.1 that's hitting consoles tomorrow, and the update is actually there for you to download today, so tomorrow all you've got to do is wait for the downtime. I believe it's about, I think it's 10 AM for PlayStation, that's 10 AM UTC, which is, I think it'll last about 2 hours each, roughly. Same for the Xbox, about 2 hours, but I think the Xbox One starts at midday, so 12 o'clock, and I think again that's UTC, Universal Coordinated Time. But let's have a look at this. Oh, and no video over the weekend. Obviously, my little jaunt to London took it out of me physically a lot more than I thought it would, so I was sort of recuperating Friday. And then Saturday I had to go and house sit for the day, so I'm just getting, recovering from Thursday, and then I had to go and do that, which knackered me up a bit more. So that's why I'm getting all these done today. So anyway, update notes. Let's have a look. So, I mean, size 4.7 gig for Xbox One, and 360 with 117 meg title update, and then a 1.5 gig. Hang on a minute, how's that? No. Right, Xbox One, 4.7 gig, 360, 117 gig title update, and a 1.5 gig download. I will get this right. And PlayStation 4 is 4.4 gig. Now, the new features, there are the replays. It's nice that we've got the replays in, but unfortunately, there are some massive drawbacks to it, which a few of us have sort of expressed concern about. The main one, which is the thing that people really wanted the replay system for, is sharing your replay, and you can't do that yet. We've got the replay system, it's there. Hopefully they will improve and expand upon it, and it will become what it should be, really. So yeah, there's no sharing, unfortunately, and it only saves your last 5 games from your current session. So if you get a crash or it logs you out for whatever reason, they're gone. So yeah, last 5 games. The upside of it is, and the way around it is, basically if you have a great game and you've not recorded it, you can go back and watch the replay and actually record that using your Xbox DVR or your PlayStation. Your PlayStation, the recordability on the PS4, so you can go back and do that. And also, if anything funny happens, like you see somebody kill themselves, you can go back on the replay and grab that straight away. But yeah, it is only your last 5 games of your current session, so a little bit disappointing. But again, it's nice that it's there, but we wish it was better. Obviously, Siege mode is coming with the Swedish vehicles. I'm not going to mention that now. And the 2 new Swedish tanks as well. The new German heavy tanks are coming. The VK 1001P, which is the new Tier 8. The Mauschen, which is the new Tier 9. And they both lead into the Maus. I'm assuming possibly from the Tiger P. And the Panzer 7, which now leads off the which will lead off the VK4502B. And I'll turn my phone off. We're getting the 2 new maps, which I mentioned before in the other one. I'm not going to go into that, but there's various improvements. Spotted vehicles appear more quickly on screen. I'm hoping that's going to now pull it in line with the PC, because on PC spotted vehicles appear very quickly. On console they don't. So, for instance, a video I saw, I think it was Mighty Jingles did it a while back when it changed on there, and it was a factory doorway on Pilsen, in fact, one of the new maps. And it showed the old way of the spotting working, and basically the tank came out and was about halfway across this big doorway before it was spotted and appeared. Under the new spotting mechanics, this is for PC, and I'm hoping that console comes in line. Basically, the tank was about halfway out from the doorway, so only about halfway past the door when it became spotted, instead of halfway across the actual gap. So fingers crossed that might be it. Various other things. Map rotation adjustment for teal. Yeah, it says, I'm not quite sure what this is. It says maps in rotation become available at Battle Tier 4. So, not entirely sure whether there'll only be very limited maps up to that. I don't know. That seems to be what it is on the PC. You're only playing a couple of 3 different maps up to about Tier 4. So, maybe. I really don't know. Minimap improvements, that's fairly important. Buildings are now solid black. Destructible buildings are solid black with white outlines, so it should make them harder to see. And then there's a few bits and bobs for sort of adjustments for northwest spawn location, not spawn locations, bases, and a couple of other bits for war stories and what have you. Vehicles, radio weight's now included in mobility stat bar. but apparently it won't affect any of the performance of any vehicle. It's just basically got a weight now, that's all. Well, the weight is shown, should we say. And obviously there are various vehicles being remade into HD, so there are going to be some buffs, and it might be worth looking at some of your favourite tanks just to make sure the armour profiles are showing quite the same, because if they have been updated, there is a chance the armour profile may change slightly, or it might be slightly different in patches, places, that sort of thing. But quite a few buffs and stuff. I'm going to sort of skip through and go for the more prominent ones. WZ11114, and I think the T10 as well is getting a similar buff to this. It's getting an increase to its side armour from 80 to 120, which is quite a big buff. There's quite a few things getting sort of terrain resistances and buffs and dispersion buffs and that sort of thing. But the 112, which is the tier 8 premium Chinese heavy, that's getting the same treatment to its side armour, because it's supposed to have the hull from the tier 10, the tier 10 heavy. So that's getting that. Let's have a look. I'm sort of going through. Oh no, the T10 is not getting that buff. In fact, that might already have 120 on the side. Yeah, I think I'm thinking of something else. In fact, it was probably the 112 I was thinking of. But it is getting some rotation increases and things like that. But yeah, there's a few main ones I wanted to look at. These are all on the World of Tanks console website. I'll try and put a link in the description so you can go and have a look at these yourself and have a good look through and see what's changing. Anything that just has updated HD collision model, may have slight changes to its armour profile. And by that I mean some bits might be slightly thicker or slightly different angling, that sort of thing, than it was before. So it might be worth having a look at anything like that. But yeah, there are a few. Like I say, I'm going to skip through. I'm trying to find them. A lot of these, like Gorange, is getting an updated model now. Germany, here we go. There was a couple on Germany that I was quite surprised about. A couple I was quite pleased about as well. The Panther is now getting the increased top speed of 55 kilometers an hour to bring it in line. The Crafts Panther has that higher top speed. So that's now been buffed up from obviously 48 to 55 to be the same as the Crafts Panther, which is nice. The Crafts Panther obviously has a smaller engine than the regular Panther, though. The Panther with 88, so the Panther 88 basically gets a 5mm buff to its frontal armour, which is nice. I don't think it'll make too much of a difference, but it will make a bit of a difference, and it's getting 100 more horsepower to bring the engine up to the same size as the Crafts Panther engine. It's always been a bit sluggish, the Panther 88, so it won't make a huge bit of difference, but it will a bit. Hull rotation speed is increased as well slightly, and gun depression is increased from -5 to -8, although if I remember rightly, you can't get full gun depression over the front of the tank. In fact, I think the only Panther that you can is the Crafts Panther, which gives you full gun depression over the front of the tank, whereas I think the Panther 88 is you get the full depression over the sides. But I'll go into that a bit more on the Panther Revisit, Crafts Panther Revisit. Again, a few more sort of bits of top speed and rotation and what have you. The ones I'm mainly wanting to look at are a bit further down, which I was surprised about. Here, the mouse is getting a buff to its turret front from 240 to 260. Now, I'll be glad of that because I've just unlocked the mouse. I'm not sure if that's entirely necessary. You see, the trick to the mouse, well, I'm not very good in the mouse, but I do know the trick to the turret, is basically not to leave it aiming at whatever you're shooting at while you're reloading. Angle your turret like you would angle your hull, because it obviously increases the effective thickness. And I think a lot of people that I've seen in the mouse, they keep looking at you. As long as they're reloading, they keep looking at you, and it gives you that 240mm. And if you've got enough pen, you can go through the front of the turret. So if you're in the mouse, angle your turret like you would angle your hull, away from whatever you're shooting at or is shooting at you while you reload. Look at them while you fire, angle your turret away again. But yeah, it's getting an extra 20mm on the front. It's getting some little buffs to aim time and shot dispersion as well, again, which is quite surprising. The Lerva is getting an extra 200 horsepower, which is nice. I know I mentioned in the Lerva review I did a little bit back that I think it needed a slightly bigger engine. Not too much, just a bit bigger, because of the way that you tend to play that tank, especially when you're not top tier. It just I felt it just needed that slightly bigger engine just so it could manoeuvre around a bit more and provide a bit more support when it is bottom tier. But it's also getting an armour buff as well to the frontal armour. It's going up to 150 from 120, and I think that's the same as a Tiger 2 now, at 150, I believe. Again, it's just from memory, but yeah, it's nice that it's getting that bit of a buff to the frontal armour of the hull. And it is getting more gun depression as well, down to -10. So the lever could become quite a force on ridgelines with 150 frontal hull armour and 10 degrees of gun depression. The lever could become quite a force to be reckoned with on ridgelines with that. So that's going to be quite interesting to see how that affects the lever and how people play it. But I mean, you don't tend to see that many levers anyway. Maybe you'll see a few more with these buffs applied to it. You never know. Now, where was the other one? 4502B, another one I wanted to pick out. It's getting 20mm extra armour on the side of the hull, so it goes from 100 to 120. It's already obviously very well armoured frontally, hull-wise anyway. And the turret armour is also getting a buff to the front, which again is a bit of a surprise. I really, I've got a 4502B. I'm not entirely sure it needs a buff to its frontal armour, but it's going from 252 to 265. So again, that's going to make a bit of a difference. Again, not quite sure if it needs it, but it's getting it. That's it. So yeah, but however, and I really don't want to tell you this, part of me wants to tell you, part of me really doesn't, because again, I got the 4502B. It never used to have any frontal weak spots, and particularly apart from the commander's hatch. Now, a few updates ago, and I don't know how many people have noticed this, it got one. So, don't get too excited. It's not a very big weak spot, but it is a weak spot there. And, yeah, you can pen people through it. I put a shell straight through the front of a 4502B the other day. And it is, as you're looking at the tank, you've got the machine gun port. Like I say, as you're looking at it, the machine gun port's on the left. And you've got a small driver's viewport in the middle of the sort of upper glacis on the right. That is now a weak spot. It's very small. It's quite hard to hit unless you're close. But it is there, and you can hit it and put shells through it, so do bear that in mind. Let's have a look. The 4502A is getting an increase to its frontal armour from 120 to 150. Don't know how that's going to affect its power to weight ratio, because the 4502A has always been quite nippy, and I've always felt it's more of a heavy medium, or a medium heavy, whatever you want to call it, heavy medium, anyway. So yeah, I don't know how that's going to affect its weight, but it is also again getting better gun depression and elevation. And there's a few others. There's mainly, I'm sort of looking at this, and sort of highlighting the ones that I think are quite surprising or unusual, or are sort of welcome. The Panther /M10 and the Panther Championship N10, they're getting the increased hull armour on the front as well, up to 85. Now the turret armour, that looks like a nerf, but it's not. Again, I think I mentioned this a while back. I don't know why it wasn't spaced armour on the side of the turret, because it is a plate welded onto the side of the turret with a gap. Hence, the very definition of spaced armour. So it's losing 5mm of solid armour on the side of the turret, but that is turning into 5mm of spaced armour on the side of the turret. So, it's not really had a nerf as such, just a bit of a change, and that is also getting the top speed increase as well, and a few other little bits and bobs on it, little buffs here and there on various things. Indian Panzer getting a speed upgrade. Now, this is another interesting one, the VK3002M, which is the Panther prototype, the tier 6 one before the Panther, is getting a huge buff to its frontal armour. It's going from 60 to 85mm, which takes it to the same frontal armour as the Panther, a tier above. So that's going to make quite a difference. And again, I wonder if that's going to make a difference to its power to weight ratio, if they're going to factor that into it. So that's something that I might have to look at. In fact, what am I looking at now? It'd be the VK4502A, the VK3002M. I'm going to try and get the power to weight ratios noted down before the update comes tomorrow and see if it does actually change, or I'll see if I can find any information on that one. The E100, there's a lot of German changes. Again, this is a fairly interesting one. The 150mm gun on the E100 has always been known for having obviously the high damage, slower rate of fire, but very, very poor penetration, and a lot of people use premium ammo with the 150mm gun on the E100, or they'll just stick with the 128, which has the higher pen, Slightly better rate of fire, but the lower damage. Now, I don't know if this is to try and discourage the amount of premium that's fired out of the 150mm, but it is getting a... Well, it says here, not pen, it says piercing power, and I'm trying to sort of figure out what these ones are, what these values actually are, because it says 235 and 220, and obviously 246 and 241, but it is getting some increase to the piercing power of its gun. And another one here. This, for people who don't know about this and have got the Grilla 15, the Grill 15 is getting a reduction in its shell velocity, so that means you're going to have to lead targets slightly more to hit them. So that, again, is something, you know, that's going to affect people's gameplay. I don't think there's anything else particularly intriguing or that's sort of worth note particularly. Apart from the 88mm guns, the short versions, the Pak 36, which I think is the TD version, the KWK, which is the sort of every other tank version, are also getting a piercing power increase, it says. So, you know, maybe that's going to be a slight pen increase. I'm not entirely sure, but that's something to keep an eye on for the short 88. Although, it doesn't mention anything there about the T3488, which also has that gun. So again, that's something I might try and look into. France, I don't think there's anything particularly outstanding that's sort of in the French one. Same with UK, a few little buffs here and there, top speeds, the FV4202P, which is used to be the tier 10 medium, and people got it as a premium if they had it. That's getting a speed increase, I think, to bring it more in line with the Centurion tanks after they got their speed increase. Let's have a look. Again, another one here that I'm not sure is entirely necessary. The Type 5 Heavy. The Japanese Tier 10 Heavy is getting a buff to its armour. It's getting an extra 10mm on the front of the hull, an extra 20mm to take it up to 160 on the side of the hull, and the turret armour is going from 260 on the front to 280 on the front. So again, that's going to make that a hell of a lot tougher. Again, not quite sure if it's necessary, but there it is. Now this one here, the OI Kaiju. Yes, both the OI and the Kaiju are getting a nerf to its rear armour. It's going down from 150 to 105. And that's the same on the turret as well. The back of the turret is also going down to 105 from 150. Basically because the Tech Tree one needed rebalancing, and you know, they couldn't leave the premium one without changing it as well. Bit of a disappointment. A little bit frustrating. I find it hard to argue with it though, because I mean, really, it kind of did need it because they were ridiculously tough from the back. You know, well, they were as tough from the back as from the front. So, you know, it is hard to argue the fact that they didn't need it because, you know, really, I kind of think they did. I'm still not happy about it because I've got a Kaiju, and why wouldn't you want it to be harder than it is? But yeah, it's happening. So yeah, Kaijus will be weaker from the back after the update. Let's have a look down, flick down. I'm trying to sort of scan over. I know roughly which ones it is that I've got in mind to mention and sort of pick out. This is another one. These engines here, and it does mention it further down on the actual tank. It might not mean much to the Ford GAF and the GAF M2. Basically, getting horsepower increases from 440 to 670 and 510 to 780. Now they're the engines for the T28, T28 prototype, and T95, so they're getting a slightly bigger engine. So that's going to be a slightly better power to weight ratio as well, which is always welcome in those tanks. But there's something a bit more interesting about them further down as well. Now, where are we? M6 is getting another buff to its armour, side and rear. T32 is getting a few buffs to its reload time, in fact. Now, where are we? M48 pattern, big buff to the front of its turret from 177.8 to 254mm for the front of the turret. That's a huge buff for the M48 pattern. Now, where are we? Here we are. T92, it's going on about the engine. You're getting the horsepower increase from 500 to 860. T92 is the... Well, I don't say T92 is the RT. I think it is, isn't it? My brain, I've just had a complete brain fart. Yeah, it is. Yeah, so the RT is getting an engine increase, engine size increase. Now here we are, T28 and T95. This is the sort of interesting bit. T28 is getting a speed increase from 18 to 22 kilometers an hour forwards and from 7 to 10 backwards, as well as rotation increases as well. And the T95, the dreaded Doom Turtle, is getting a speed buff, going from 13 kilometers an hour to a whopping 20 kilometers an hour. Now, it's still slow as hell, but it's not as slow as it was. So again, you know, I don't think it's going to change the playstyle too much, but it's there, and you know, it's nice, and getting an increase in reverse as well. The M103 is getting a view range buff. The T57 Heavy, not that one. T28 Prototype is getting a speed buff as well. Look, from 18 to 28 kilometers an hour on the Prototype, and from 7 to 10 in reverse. But again, that's quite a large buff, really, if you look at it as a percentage-wise. T110E5 updated Commander's Hatch armor. I don't know what they've done to it. I'm assuming it's probably going to be made even thicker. That's all they seem to be doing to the T110E5, is making it harder and harder from the front, but we'll soon see. And I think that's about it, really. The surprising ones. That one was slightly surprising to me with the M56 Scorpion. It's getting a shot dispersion buff and an aim time buff, which is nice. Again, not sure it needs it, but it's there. And that's really it for the buffs and what have you. Like I say, I'll pop a link to this in the description for this video, so you can go and have a read through these properly if you haven't seen them already. I was just basically wanted to highlight some of the more key ones, some of the surprising ones, and some of the ones that, like I say, were a bit more welcome. And then various bug fixes as well. I'm not going to go through all of these, but yeah, there are various bug fixes that are coming in with this one, as you can see there. And let's have a look. Some of the maps have been altered. Lakeville added physics regions to prevent access to unintended areas. Abbey removed floating culturals and terrain seams. Same again on Abbey, updated terrain materials to the correct type. And Icebound added physics regions to prevent access to unintended areas. So there you go. Probably a bit longer than I thought. There was a lot of stuff to go through, but there were the main ones that I covered, and that's what I wanted to do. And like I say, don't forget, it's worth coming and having a look at these. Some of your favourite tanks might be getting a buff or a nerf, so it would be worth just coming and having a quick look just to see what's what. But there you go. Anyway, I'll be back maybe with another video later on today. Hopefully I will, if all goes to plan. So until then, take care out there, and I'll catch you next time. See you later.